Today we are going to be looking at the most infamous British serial killer of all time. Of course I am talking about Jack the Ripper. As the case was never solved, we're going to be looking at the victims, the potential suspects, and their motives. So it all began in autumn 1888 in Whitechapel, which was the East End of London. The area is known for its crime and poverty, and there was a brothel on every single corner. The morning of the 1st of August, Charles Cross was on his way to his new job on Bucks Row. However, he came across Mary Ann Nichols, who was lying in the street with her skirt risen above her waist. Cross walked over to Mary and touched her head and her hand. He couldn't decide whether she was unconscious or whether she was dead. He pulled down her skirt and decided to alert the next police officer he found. However, in the dark, he never saw that her throat was slit and her abdomen was mutilated. John Neill was the first police officer on scene. They ended up fetching the doctor, and the doctor pronounced her dead at the scene. He also believed that she was killed half an hour prior to Cross finding the body. Mary had been a local prostitute that also went by the name as Polly. The police originally believed that it was a violent gang who had committed the crime. However, newspapers spun a new story about a killer that went after women. Then came the second murder, which happened on the 8th of September 1888. The victim was Annie Chapman, who was found in a backyard on Danbury Street. An elderly resident had found her and notified some of the young workers to help contact the police. Her throat had also been cut and there was multiple stab wounds on the body. Her intestines had been removed and placed upon her shoulders, and post-mortem revealed that her uterus had been taken. The post-mortem also revealed that the killer used a long, narrow knife to inflict the wounds, and also believed that the killer had some anatomical knowledge of the body. However, John Neill, one of the police officers, believed that the killer had no previous knowledge of the body, not even that of a butcher. He also believed that the killer had hypersexuality in his report, which was probably one of the first criminal profiles ever made, which is quite interesting. Police had a lot to deal with these bodies coming up. But they also had to deal with the amount of letters coming into the press claiming they were the Ripper. Most of these letters would suggest how they could catch the killer. However, others were claiming to be the killer himself. There was only a few letters that were believed to be true, and one of those letters was the Dear Boss letter. The letter ends with himself giving him the name, Jack the Ripper. And also the letter claims that the next victim would have their ear taken off. The third and fourth murder happened on the same night. Catherine Eddowes and Elizabeth Stride were murdered on the 30th of September 1888. Elizabeth was last seen at midnight with a gentleman. Her body was found at 1 a.m. in Dutchfield Yard. However, she had only died from a gash from the neck and there was no mutilation on the body. This could have been that Jack was interrupted in his kill. Catherine was last seen with a man at 1:30 a.m. Her body was discovered by a constable walking his beat. Her neck had been cut and she was mutilated worse than other previous victims. Her intestines were also removed and placed upon her shoulder, and her kidney and part of her uterus had gone. But the most interesting thing was, her ear had been cut off, suggesting that the letters were true. However, there is a belief that the journalists of the time had access to this information and wrote these letters to give the story more spice. However, one letter went to Mr. Luck, who was a chairman of a society. The letter had part of a kidney in it, where Jack claims that he ate the other half and gave some to him. Doctors also confirmed that it was a human organ. Jack the Ripper's final kill was Mary Jane Kelly. And this kill was one of the most violent. Her body was discovered November the 9th, 1888, and was found by her landlord as she was killed in her own home. The landlord saw a pile of human meat on the table and her body was unrecognisable. Her face had been hacked away and a lot of her organs had been removed. He also noticed a smashed window, which implied that someone could have broken in. These 5 victims are known by ripperologists as the Chronical 5. However, there are theories that Jack the Ripper killed more. The police were under a lot of pressure from the media and the public. They were ridiculed by their lack of action, and it was believed that because it was a poor area, they didn't take the crimes in such a serious way. Over time, there has been over 100 suspects for this case, even to this day, but I'm only going to talk about some of the main ones. And I also want to point out a lot of these women were killed on a weekend, which makes me suspect that someone had come down on the weekend, on the days off when they weren't working, and committed these murders. Which is interesting. So first up we have Leather Apron. This was a name put out by the media. Police had arrested John Pizer, who was also known as Leather Apron. He was a Polish Jew that worked as a shoemaker and also had a previous conviction of a stabbing crime. The only issue is that Pizer had a solid alibi, and it was believed that this theory was based off resentment towards the Jewish population at the time. You'll be pleased to know that Pizer actually sued the newspaper that put out the story, and he won the case. The next suspect we have is George Chapman. He also arrived when the killing spree started, but had no knowledge or no previous medical background, should we say. He also left for America in 1891, which explains why the killings might have stopped. However, there is a debate between criminologists that why would he change his method of killing? He was convicted for poisoning, so why would he turn to stabbing? It is very unlikely that a killer would change. There was also Dr Thomas Neill, which is a very interesting name, who basically confessed to being Jack after he was hanged for poisoning people. However, it was proved that he wasn't there at the time of the killing spree, but people liked the fact he confessed, so they believe it was him. There was also Alex Kosminski, who was a Jewish barber. Police believed he had strong homicidal tendencies and a hatred towards women. However, one of the witnesses that supposedly saw Jack the Ripper would not testify against him as he was Jewish. He was also committed to an asylum in 1890, which might suggest why the killing stopped. There was also a study matching his DNA to a shore. However, it is believed that there was a lot of issues with this study. One of my favourite theories is that it was Prince Albert Victor, who was a member of the royal family. People believed that he was the killer and his helpers were covering it up. He was also known for that area and was believed that he had a child in that area as well. He also was known to catch syphilis, and people believe that he went mad and went on a killing rampage because of it. Which is a very interesting theory. There was also Walter Sickert, who was a painter of the time. He painted Jack the Ripper's bedroom and also supposedly painted some of the victims in his paintings, which is a bit peculiar. However, he could just be an artist drawing from dark inspiration. Who knows? There's also another theory that it could have been Jill the Ripper, so it could have been a woman. So what do we know about Jack the Ripper? Well, we knew he hated women, especially prostitutes, as all of the victims were prostitutes. We know his crimes got more violent and violent over time, which could be the fact he was getting more confident in his killing, or he was leading up to kill his main victim. We also know that he killed his victims on weekends, which suggests that he had a job from Mondays to Friday. We also knew he stopped the killing. Was this because he had killed the victim he originally wanted to kill? Or was it the fact that maybe he was sent to an insane asylum? Or maybe he moved country? I guess we will never know. However, we're always left with one question. Who was Jack the Ripper? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed my true crime video, don't forget to subscribe. I make true crime videos on my channel once a month, so they're definitely worth checking out. And hopefully I will see you all in the next one.